I'm also going to record this so I can post this because there's lots of people who don't have the opportunity to get on. Wow. We've got,
Yeah, so we might want to remind the people to put in their chat where they're from, Donna.
all right, folks, why don't you put where you're from and maybe why you're here.
Oh, Bloomer, nice to see. It's a neighbor.
Thorpe.
Oh, Jessica's here. I haven't seen Jess in so long. Oh my gosh.
Donna, I'm here.
Oh my
Susan!
gosh. Yay.
Hey!
Oh, this is
Guys,
like
hands.
this is like home week. John is here.
It's a
Jamie's
reunion.
here. Okay, folks, I just want to tell you, I have not seen these people in over a year due to COVID, and I'm gonna cry because these were my first peeps, you know, getting out of retirement, and you know, in my retirement, you were my first consulting job, and so I miss you terribly.
It's good to see you guys.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, how are you, Susan?
I'm good. How are you?
You're staying warm down there? I bet it's nice down there.
Oh yeah, it's really nice. We were in the 70s today.
Oh, don't even start.
Well, we were in the 40s. We were in the
Yeah.
40s, and I gotta say that's about an 80-degree difference from last week.
Oh yeah, us too. We were in the low 20s, and you know that's cold for us.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's no good.
very cold. Yeah.
But we had a beautiful morning here. It snowed, and it was just like perfect. It was beautiful in the morning.
Good.
Nice.
All right, my friends, it's 7:01. We're going to get started. We have 33 participants tonight. That is amazing. I'm just so thrilled that you're all here. And we're here tonight with 2 school districts that have gone on the Science of Reading journey, and they're here to share out what they've discovered, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to start. Let me see. I'm going to call you by name, and would you introduce yourself? Okay, Jeannie.
Yeah, I'm Jeannie Shop. I am a middle school reading specialist in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.
And Jeannie's here because her district is they just started dabbling.
We're on the precipice. We're just we're just starting. So
starting. So it's really kind of cool. All right, Misty.
Hi, I'm Misty Trowbridge. I am the proud leader of Thorpe Elementary.
In Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Jessica?
Home of the Cardinals.
Jess Morello, speech and language. You want me to go third? Jess Morello, speech and language.
I'm just watching. I'm just doing my thing here.
I feel so important.
I know, right?
Jess Morello, speech and language, Thorpe.
And John Humphreys?
I'm just here to listen. I'm John Humphreys. I was the superintendent in Thorpe from 2017 through 2020, and had a hand in helping these folks get started, but they have run with the ball a mile past where I got them.
John was the impetus. He was the man. All right, Susan.
Hey, I'm Susan Nettie, and I am from South Louisiana, and I was asked to go and be a part of Thorpe's big move and was happy to do it. So
Susan provided some teacher training for us, about 5 days worth in our first year. Okay, where else? Okay, Nicole is here. Oh, and Amy, you're next. Okay.
Hi, I'm Amy Brunsfeld. I'm from Thorpe, Wisconsin, the reading specialist.
Reading specialist, the gal. Okay, Nicole.
I'm Nicole Demske. I'm the school psychologist for Thorpe. I'm just here for moral support.
Oh, come on. We know you do.
You do plenty.
All right. Oh my gosh, Patty's here. Patty Montgomery is on.
Oh, Patty too?
Yeah, we got the whole team here. Does Patty want to say anything?
No.
That's okay. We'll talk for you, Patty.
I'm like John. I'm just listening.
All right. So Patty is the owner of Schools Cubed, and so she doesn't want to say anything, but Jamie will. Jamie?
Yes. In fact, I knew Patty was going to say, no, I'm not speaking. And so, yeah, I'm here just kind of as a support for Schools Cubed and the great work that's happening in Thorpe. And I was able to go visit actually right before the world shut down. So super excited. And I know we've got some folks on here that are also kind of curious about just what this is all about. So really excited for this conversation. So thanks for letting me join.
Oh, for sure. So Jamie works for Schools Cubed, as does Vicki, who can't be with us tonight because she's feeling ill. And Vicki is the on-the-ground coach that is brought in, 3-4 times a year to do data analysis and kind of just see where everyone's at. Okay, let's see who else. Oh, we have Jill. Jill is a member of the Thorpe team, but she's on her phone. And Rachel, is that our Rachel from Thorpe? Is she there too?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there she is. And Rachel's the other reading specialist or I don't know what her title is. Title 1? I don't know. Reading something, right?
I'm a reading teacher.
You're a reading teacher. Okay, very good. All right, so friends, I need to get back to, let's see, how do we do this? I only see Rachel's phone. Are you all seeing Rachel's phone, or do you see me?
I see you.
Okay. All right, here we go. So we're going to direct these questions probably to Misty and to Jeannie initially, and then the others can just chime in. This is going to be extremely informal because I've never done this before, so that's how I roll. So here we go. So Misty and Jeannie, I want you to tell us how you got started and how did the shift begin?
I'm just going to acquiesce to Misty. You go right ahead.
That is perfectly fine. So this is John Humphrey's fault. We were blessed to have, and the first time I've been in education for 24 years. This is my 24th year in education. First, I was a special ed teacher, then I was a director of student services, and that's how I ended up going to Thorpe, and chose Thorpe because John was there. And John was by far the strongest academic leader that I've ever worked for. So this is really his brainchild. I knew John in my past as a special ed person because he worked at DPI. So I had a ton of respect for him and data and, his knowledge around school improvement. So I was excited to be able to go to Thorpe. Never in a million years did I think I would be in the chair that I am now, but thanks to John, that's where I sit. And so our journey began because he noticed that we were one of the poorest performing school districts in our area within our CISA. And he brought it to the board. And then he, devised this master plan where we brought in multiple consultants. So we had Susan Eddy from Best Practice Associates, did our initial training. And I think we were all completely blown away when we learned what phonemes were, what graphemes were, how to make sounds correctly. And I think for us, it was an eye opener on really how you can use speech and language clinicians, because that's what Susan was in her past, how you really need to tap into the expertise of your speech and language people. And Jess has become a very critical component of our team. So that is how we got started. Susan came, and at the same time, Schools Cubed came in, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. The first year I was trying to figure out, like, what does it compare to? It's like, I think our first year was like having your first kiss. You didn't know if you should move in or move out or hold hands first, or are you going to, or are you not, which way do you tilt your head? And I think that's really what our first year was about. We had no idea what we were doing. We were learning, blessed to have Susan come up and teach us just the foundational skills of what, the science is all about as far as the technical terms and pillars. And then you layer on Schools Cubed, who really opened our eyes to best teaching practices and data and, how do you teach, and looking at your master schedule, just the small details that you have to have in place to have a functional system. So for us, it was a complete systems change. It wasn't us jumping into the science of reading. We had to completely revamp our entire system to really maximize what we were trying to accomplish. And looking at our, our multi-tiered systems of supports, we didn't even have a data team. We admired data, we looked at it, we didn't really know what we were looking for. So that first year we brought in Nicole Demske, a new psychologist, and it changed the dynamics of our team. Amy and Rachel just hit the ground running and really are the driving force behind all that is literacy. Then you bring in Donna, who had brought years of experience with the science of reading and how you teach phonics and phonemic awareness. And, we didn't even know what those pillars were when we first started. John and Amy, do you want to talk about it? Rachel, Jess, year one?
Well, I'll start. I'll say a couple of things. As the reading specialist at this school, I knew we had a reading problem. I knew things weren't good. I knew the things that Susan came and told us, but the problem was that nobody else I worked with did. And so it was really, it's not like you can communicate with somebody. It's like another foreign language if they don't understand what you're talking to them about. So bringing Susan in was finally getting our entire staff on the same page, which was really the very first big step district-wide, I think, as a staff, when we could all speak and understand the same terminology and know how important it was. As far as knowing there was a problem, I think my problem with that was we never had any strong leadership in our school. It was very willy-nilly and wishy-washy. And, sure, they wanted to make change, but nobody really knew how. And so when John came in with his incredible motivation and push to make everybody better, like at Lumpet or otherwise, he pushed all of us, I think, to be our best and to not just settle with what we've always done. One of my favorite things to say is, we can't intervene our way out of a universal problem. And we were looking at, that's all we were doing was trying to do another intervention. Let's try this, maybe that'll work. And I just felt like we were always throwing darts, not really addressing the types of things that were our kids' deficits. So when we moved from STAR assessments to FastBridge, that was a big move because we could actually pinpoint and diagnose more things, even with our universal screeners. And then that led us, with Donna's help too, to dig a little deeper. What else could be wrong? Okay, so they can't read the second grade passage. I wonder why. Let's look at that. So we just ended up doing a lot more diagnosing what was wrong and using the data to drive what we did with our instruction. All of those things just came together because of the team that we assembled. And I don't know, if it wasn't for the team, this would not be happening. It is definitely a group effort. We all have our own little piece that we do, but together we're kind of a powerhouse. Mm-hmm. I'm super proud of everybody that I work with and what we're able to achieve because we're all very driven to have that success.
For me in year one, I was their special ed director. I got to sit back and enjoy. I wasn't pushed into the heavy lifting of this work. So I kind of sat on the sidelines and admired what they were doing and pitched in when I could. So my first year was really watching this team come together. John, do you want to add anything? Because this is you got us into this.
Well, I had some background, but Donna, I got to say that part of what Donna added to the mix was so important because we started with Reading Rockets. Mm-hmm. And that was that free online training. And everybody over the course of a summer did Reading Rockets. We paid them additional time for that because it's professional development. And it was nice to have Donna's expertise because we understood that we had to connect the dots between the professional development and the curriculum and the actual classroom practices. And so it wasn't only standalone professional development. Then everybody started digging in on the leadership changes, the data changes, all the things that you're talking about. And Amy, exactly as you said, it was such a team effort. And I'm looking at Jess too, because, people think, oh, well, the speech folks are over there talking about and working on articulation and vocabulary and whatever. And it was just so critical that all the stuff that Jess added in as a speech and language pathologist and Nicole on the data analysis, it really does take a team effort. And it really worked well. Everybody was really ready for some change. It was cool. Mm-hmm. Still is.
Cool. It was cool. How about Jess? I remember when you got so excited, you put up your sound wall.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
I'll start out just where my like eye-opening experience was when Susan came to do that training. You know, I did the Reading Rockets modules because we had to, and I was like, oh yeah, this is, speech and language. A lot of times we have to do various PD, and it doesn't always apply. But I was like, oh yeah, I remember kind of learning this stuff in college. And then Susan came, and I remember just having so many aha moments. Like she's an SLP. She talks my language. This is my language, phonemes. And it just was, I left those couple days after Susan came, like, I can support this. I don't know how, but I can support this. And literacy isn't totally in our scope and sequence as SLPs. However, super duper underutilized. And so the first year, I didn't know how I fit. I tried to give basically it snowballed. John kind of got me even a little bit more involved that second year. And now we have a team of 5 of us that are super, we're just well-rounded, and it's really awesome how we all add that component. So Sound Walls was the big rollout this year. Amy and I met over the summer, and one of the advantages, I guess, of COVID and all the closures is we got a lot of PD time in last year. And so a lot of our teachers did a lot of the same PD because we were at home and we were able to do that. So we had, we came in with speaking kind of the same language. And then we figured out exactly how we wanted Sound Walls to look. We wanted them to be universal in our district and all to be kind of using them and looking the same. And so that's kind of the thing we're supporting this year. So. And I got my little gal, Ari, here that pops her head in every once in a while. She gets to stay up late tonight. So, but any other questions, Donna?
There was one question in the chat box, Donna.
All right, Susan, you want to talk and tell us about your role and what you did for us?
I muted myself because I was so enjoying what everybody was just talking about. My role in the piece was to come in and really just try to orient everyone involved to the science of reading and what that entailed. And I come from a background of education and speech language pathology and a lot of other areas. But what I found through the years, and I have to say this is my 44th year in education. That's how long I've been doing this. I started in 1975. So it's been a long time, but I love it. But my part with what I was doing was to just, like Jess said, was to give everybody a common vocabulary, something that was linguistically based, because that's sort of what speech language pathologists come in with. They understand the linguistic piece that gives you all the success with reading, because reading is just linguistically based. And so all the science of reading that we have is for the teachers and, the reading specialists. And we all have our little compartments that we learn. And so then what my job really, I think, ended up being was taking all these little compartments and showing how it all went together to make a successful reading school, and just where everybody, and I always like to say literacy because it goes across all subjects, not just the reading class, but across the subjects. And I think what I had to do was sort of orient everyone to that key element of literacy and the science behind it, and that it was, legitimate stuff, that there was some good research behind it that showed that what was happening in other places could happen in Thorpe. And it did, which was so great. My job was there for 5 days, and I would have loved to come back many, many more days, but I was happy that I could at least give everybody a common vocabulary and a way to get started.
Mm-hmm. And you did a great job, Susan, because it got everybody off, running, off and running. Okay, Jamie.
Me?
Tell us how Schools Cubed was involved.
Oh boy. Well, actually, so I came in on the back end. So I'm curious to know, like, John, how did you find us?
Through
I can answer
Donna.
the question.
It was through Donna, but I had seen Patty present as part of her book tour. So Patty wrote a book called The Principal's Primer to Improving Reading Instruction, and it's all about leadership and the science of reading. And I had seen Patty present, gosh, a long time ago in Madison about the book. And then Donna brought up, as we were talking, so Donna said, start with Reading Rockets, do something to get the background on the science of reading, and then start applying it. So that was like Reading Rockets, then Susan, and then Schools Cubed.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So I joined Patty after kind of that moment where Thorpe was kind of already involved. And so really the piece that Schools Cubed has done, and, Misty, I'm sure that you can probably chime here on this, but it's really been kind of the leadership support. So the cubed component of Schools Cubed stands for systems, structures, and the science of reading. And so we know that it's not just enough for administrators to know the science, but we need to support them in getting the systems and structures in place so that it can be moving. And so when Vicki or when Patty, whenever one of our consultants comes there, they're working side by side with Misty, going into classrooms, and it's really that, side by side coaching and mentorship that is happening. And it's, to my knowledge, there's not anybody that sort of does what we do. And so it's very specialized in, actually Patty just did this initiative or a conversation at the recent Plain Talk, but so many state initiatives are missing the importance of administrators with that. And especially with, the Wallace Foundation just came out and continues to underscore the importance of administrators. And so what does that look like? And so that's really the piece that we have. Misty, what else would you add to that?
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you this, working with Schools Cubed, we would never be where we are without the support of Schools Cubed, that side-by-side coaching. And, Amy can speak to this too, because it's side by side. Now when Vicki comes for visits, it's usually Amy and I, or Amy goes with, or I go with, but what we get a next steps report. So when they come in, they evaluate your entire system, and our system was bad. I mean, we did not have 20% of anything in place. Excuse me. We were probably under 20% in most of the things. And now, we've grown in the last, we like to call this really solid year too, because of the consistency that we've had in the principalship right now, with me being in my second year. So we really are in solid year two, and our growth in 2 years from that dismal first round of being rated on where our systems are, we're up to 75, 80%, 90% in some areas. And that's just getting a system in place. Mm-hmm. What, the mentorship with I'm going to say Patty and Vicki, because I can reach out to Patty and Vicki at any time. I text, we call. If something comes up, I have a question, we problem solve. Going on walkthroughs with Vicki and Patty did walkthroughs with us last year, Jamie, when you were there, just listening to them and watching them, what they're looking for, what they're addressing, and then having conversations at the end of the day about what they saw and what, and now they're asking, what did we see and what can we do to support them better? So it's been a great partnership. There is no way we could do this work without them. We were talking before this started, large school, small school, we're a small school with pretty limited resources. So, there is no place for me as an administrator to go in the state that I know of to get the level of support that Schools Cubed offers us. And, Vicki probably made a mistake when she gave her phone number to our entire staff. So our entire staff can reach out to Vicki at any given time. And, right now our mission is just to make Schools Cubed proud. We get nervous when we hear Patty Montgomery's name, or if Patty's coming, because you're going to get a solid dose of honesty, and this is exactly where you are, and this is how you need to get better. So you have to be a little bit thick-skinned, and you have to really check your ego at the door and listen and act. If we don't listen and act, they're going to leave us, and it would be a horrible breakup for us. So we hope that we do Schools Cubed proud, and we believe that we do.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that's definitely felt. So I am getting some private messages about, where did you get the funding for this? Because people are not rolling in money right now. So how did you get funding to even start kind of this partnership?
I'm going to turn that over to John.
Okay. Well, budgets are about priorities, right? And so we stopped spending money on things that weren't making a difference, like LLI and level books. And we started reorganizing our title budget, IDA funds for kids with disabilities. And there's money in curriculum. We got some little grants that were federal grants that were formula based, based on the number of free and reduced lunch kids that you had. Small rural schools grants, stuff like that. And we just took every little piece of money that we could throw at this. And it ended up being quite a bit. And not only was it on the training, spending money on the coaching and training, but also paying our staff for the additional time. And then Amy and Rachel would come to me with requests for stuff for the libraries, classroom libraries and stuff like that. And I'd say, okay, I can find $10,000. Let's go, do what you can for 10 grand. And so we spend a lot of money on things that don't really have much of an impact in schools. And there's money there. You can find it if you know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
And I would say right now we are blessed with this ESSER funding. Next year we've had the blessing of our school board to add another reading teacher. So we'll have 2 reading teachers, a Title I teacher. We also this year hired a Title I para. So we're increasing our staff because you can use the new ESSER dollars to, respond in response to COVID, and our scores haven't dropped since the pandemic, but we're stagnant where we were growing and now we've kind of leveled off. So we've got a great plan going into next year. So our year 3 or 4, we hope for even better results because we're putting our people and our dollars in the right places to make impact.
I have a really quick question for our Wisconsin folks. Did you ever consider reaching out to your local CISA organization for any support during this journey?
Yes.
Okay, let me stop you there. Ginny, I want you to tell us about your journey with Sturgeon Bay.
Well, our story is much different than your story. It didn't start on the top. It was really groundswell at the bottom. And it really started with me personally about 7 years ago. I've been teaching 31 years. I've been in the district for 25. 7 years ago, my daughter was identified with dyslexia. And at that same time, as a 7th grade ELA teacher, I was asked to do a reading intervention with a student who was identified with dyslexia as well. And so the special ed director sent me to an Orton Gillingham training. And that was where I got my eyes were wide opened because I was raised on balanced literacy primarily. And so I started working with these students that were struggling, and I realized that we needed to start shifting things in our district. However, being that I was in the middle school, I didn't have a lot of power or leverage with making any seismic change in our district. We ended up getting a new principal in the middle school, and I started having a lot of conversations with him about our reading and our reading scores and how we should be doing things differently. And he started giving me an ear a little bit. There are parents in the community that started voicing more concerns about what was happening with their kids' reading development. And then we just started having conversations then at the lower levels with our reading coaches. And then we just realized that we had to present to the board about what was going on with our reading scores. And we started diving into our data. We hired an outside consultant to kind of go through our 5-year trends in our data. And we realized how abysmal it was at that time. And we realized we needed to do a little bit more. So it really was a groundswell, a lot of hard work. Our reading coaches are taking the CISA 8 training, the academy training. So our Wisconsin people, if you haven't familiar with Darla Brink's work in CISA 8, she has a wonderful Science of Reading Academy. All our literacy coaches are taking it right now. We're doing our own professional development, and we are also bringing in an outside consultant to help us with this journey, because I agree with Thorpe, you can't, it's too big of a job. You really can't do it on your own. Oh.
Exactly. So you mentioned CISA 8, as most states have, they have educational agencies. We have 12 of them, and CISA 8 and CISA 9 are really movers and shakers in the state of Wisconsin in terms of the science of reading. CISA Ada's Title I coordinator is Darla Brink, and she actually is the gal who brought Susan to Wisconsin. And then Susan went to Wausau, which is CISA 9, and that's how I heard about Susan. So, you know, we all talk, and that's how things happen. And so that's how Susan came to Wisconsin, as well as Patty, I believe, through John and I don't know if Patty worked with Wausau. I can't remember if she did. Jamie, do you remember? I don't think
They were
so.
in Wausau. Patty, yeah, because Patty did a stop by. They were in Wausau and then they stopped in. I don't remember what she did, but they were, Schools Cube did go do some presenting in Wausau.
So, you know, it's all about connecting with people that have made that journey and trying to reach out to them and finding out who they used. You know, Jeannie did a lot of research on her own. And,
right. So, I mean, I talked a lot. I talked to Patty, I talked to Susan, you know, as far as bringing outside consultants in. We talked to our local CISA agents. The team looked at the list. The team said, okay, we'll talk to these 3 consultants. And then we talked to the three consultants. And then we're leaning into Transformative Reading Group out of Bozeman, Montana. It's Dr. Danielle Thompson. So she's actually going to be coming in next week and working with our district doing a needs assessment. So Dr. Danielle is the one that our team decided would be the best fit for our school. So we're really excited about the opportunity of working with her. She's going to be pretty amazing.
Okay, so we have some questions. Let me see. Can we talk about addressing, let's see, how are you addressing the other components of reading besides phonics, phonological awareness, fluency, vocal comprehension, you know, in terms of structured literacy? I would say, you know, are you looking at big picture K through 12? What is that looking like?
You're asking us?
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not looking K-12. Right now we're K-6. That's our elementary is K-6. Our middle and high school went in a little bit different direction. Their primary focus for the last 3 years has been on, they actually consult with Solution Tree, and they were doing a lot of standards work. They're seeing some of the effects of poor practice from the past. You know, even where our 5th and 6th graders, especially our 6th graders that had no science, we're seeing some pretty significant gaps. So, you know, in the next 3 years, they should see a little bit of turnaround, but that's right now not where their primary focus is at the middle and high school. So, you know, our focal point is K-6, and that's where our initiative came in, and that's where we're sustaining at this point. Yep,
I can understand that, because you can't solve all the problems. You know, you have to sacrifice some kids at the far end and work on the ones you can affect. All right, so some other questions. Let's see. I don't know if you have any scores you can share with us, but people are interested in that.
Like I saw our data, you know, we can't share our student. Nicole was going to see if she could find what we had presented last week, the state superintendent.
I have it up. If I can figure out how to share the screen.
Let me share with you.
That's great, because I think, John, you also have a visual that shows when you started implementing the science of reading, the data that started to pop up there.
I have yeah.
That's what.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, so let's see if I can figure out how to share.
All right, Amy, you have co-host rights now, so
okay, we'll see how.
Screen on the bottom. You see that? The green?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the right one. Ooh, I think I got it.
Okay.
You guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I think that Thorpe, Wisconsin was probably the only district in the state that was actually looking forward to the state test last year.
Yeah.
I'm not lying either. I am not lying about that at all. The trend that we were seeing on our progress monitoring and our screening scores, we had fall and winter screening scores right before we closed, and everything was looking so promising, and we were super excited to see if it was going to come through on the state test as much as what we were hoping it would, and then we closed. So now, you know, we're recovering from the COVID and summer slide, and like Misty said, we, you know, things are looking a little stagnant right now, and we can't really share that data with you because ours, has too many student names on it. But John had put together this graphic with, this is just the Wisconsin scores overall, and you can see the decline over time. And then hopefully I can switch to here. I thought I had it. This is our decline, which you can see is a little bit bigger than what the Wisconsin ones were. So not good. And that's where, even back in 2016 and 17, a few of us, I think that was before John's time, a few of us were really trying to figure out what to do. And we went to the DPI's universal instruction, and we walked out of there feeling like we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to fix it. They told us lots of things we could do, like the things that should be happening, but honestly, there was no starting point, and we didn't have any leadership to tell us, to be able to say like, oh, you're right, we do have a problem, and here's where we can start. So that's the data that I can share with you. It just was pretty sad looking forward tests. So looking forward to the next one, actually.
Do you have the graphic that John did that showed our growth? Is that in that presentation?
Let me look.
I think that's one.
This one?
There yeah.
Yeah. So this was not last year, it's the first year of it.
And is there another one or not? I thought there was one that he put together.
It's a like line graph. I'm seeing if I can find it too.
Okay.
Actually, this was one of, I didn't even look through this tonight. I just opened it and said, oh, here it is. This was one of the things that we felt was a pretty telling tale of how important that foundational base is. One of the other things that we like to say is, you wouldn't build a house on a shaky foundation. You can't build a reader on a shaky foundation either. And so that's where those foundational skills are so important. So we noticed the difference in the number of students over time that had fewer deficits. There were less kids at risk from one year to the next. So this is the fall of 2018. So if you look at the total number of students with deficits in word segmenting, nonsense words, and sight words, then if I flip to the next screen, this is the fall of 2019. The numbers are significantly different. So that's where we really felt like the extra efforts that we put into making sure that Haggerty was taught universally in our K through 3 pre-K, actually pre-K through 3 classrooms was important, that we were digging through and finding the most important parts of our basal to use rather than just teaching it all or being willy-nilly about what we picked and used. So I'll flip back to that. Oops, 2018. The total numbers are 17, 23, and 24 to 2, 22, and 19. So we felt like that was a really good indicator of what we might be able to see on the state tests.
And Jamie said she has the graphic.
Oh, good. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
Jamie, do you need to be co-host?
I do, yes. Zoom, isn't Zoom a funny thing? Okay, so co-host, no.
It's not fun, that's for sure.
Totally. All right, so here's the data piece that we're talking about here. So John, if you, this is kind of your baby too, but feel free to jump in. But it's clearly marked here when, fall of 2018 is when they began to implement the science of reading. And then this was, winter 2020. But are you on still, John?
I am here. Yes, I was just smiling. Yeah. So that what people don't know is that Schools Cubed gives you a report about implementation of each of the elements of a high quality system in the science of reading. So the big blue line on the chart is the overall implementation. And I think, Jamie, the way I have my screen is such that I can't see the data points across the bottom. But the big blue line is the implementation over time. So you can see overall implementation. And the one I just got from the folks in Thorpe the other day was the total was average was like 75% or something. So it's gone up again. And then what you see in the green, orange, and yellow lines are the number of kids at risk who are, again, rated as at risk by FastBridge. So as the implementation of the science of reading goes up, the number of kids at risk goes down.
Nice. Excellent.
So I'd be happy to share this. If anybody was interested, Don, I can send it. You can send it to the group if you want.
So we had a question about, people were saying you worked on phonics. Did you address the other 4 areas?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Okay.
yes. Amy, I'll let you take that one.
Well, I want all of you guys to chime in. Rachel, I hope you're out there somewhere still. But Jess, I think one of the most important things we did coming in was having Vicky and our first consultant being Angie, our first in-house coach. Angie and Vicky both coming to us and helping us point out where our weak points were. So one of the first things we noticed with our basal was it did not have nearly enough phonemic awareness in it. And so the recommendation was to bring in a universal phonemic awareness curriculum. So we brought in Michael Hegarty's program, like I said before, pre-K through 3rd, and it is still taught every day, pre-K through 3. We did our phonics, as far as our phonics work goes, our teachers found as we, every time you adopt a basal, you get 100 times more things than you actually need. And so because we didn't have any guidance in what to pull from our basal, we just kind of picked and chose what we wanted over time. And of course, there's always the fun things that, as a former classroom teacher myself, it was always like, oh, I don't like teaching that part. Why do they really need to know it? And you might leave something out, versus now that we know what the science of reading entails and what those important pieces are, there's not anything that we leave out that's one of the pillars. So even within our basal, we're able to really pull all of the phonics pieces that are in there out and use our decodables. Before, we didn't use the decodables that came with our series as judiciously as what we do now. Jess, you can speak to the vocabulary piece. I'll start with this. Missy and I had the opportunity to go to Missouri and watch Angie Hanlon's school in action, and they had been using the science of reading much longer than us. So it was such an eye-opening experience to walk in there and go, I can do that. We can do that. It was just, once you saw it in action, it was just a matter of, we can do this. This is effective. You watch it, one of the most impressive things I think that we saw was the vocabulary piece of it. And that was the one thing that we brought back that, within a month, we were like, we're doing this. We are teaching vocabulary the same way that they are, very explicitly. And so with Jess's help, speech and language clinician that she is, she pulled in that language piece. And we have vocabulary boosters, and the way that we teach vocabulary is very multisensory.
Yeah, we have hand motions. We have hand motions all over the place. I mean, that was the big takeaway. When you guys came back from Missouri, you did a training to the teachers more on the explicit instruction, because we weren't as explicit as we could have been in our teaching. And so the big takeaway was, like, how are we going to get kids to learn? We're not just teaching, but how are we going to get them to learn? And one of the big takeaways we took that was really easy was those simple hand motions for vocabulary, and the vocabulary that goes along with your basal. And so there's a hand motion for a noun, a verb, an adjective, and all the vocabulary that goes along with it for that basal that week. Students created with the teacher support, like hand motions, and they did it every day. And the teachers our teachers one of the teachers jumped on board right away and started doing it like the next week. And she just was like amazed at how quickly and how ingrained those words are in their kids. So it snowballed from there, and we have hand motions all over the place. And we have them in a shared Google Drive. We are a Google Google has been our friend as far as just collaborating and getting everything kind of housed in one place. So I took videos of kids doing the hand motions with the chants that were all kind of universal. And so now teachers from, second grade or first grade, when they first start talking about comparing and contrasting, all the way up to sixth grade, are using the same hand motions and the same verbiage. It's simple verbiage that is, being the speech and language. I have some of the lowest vocabulary students. So it's making sure that we're using student-friendly vocabulary that every kid can understand when you're teaching those words. And it's been really amazing, just the growth with our explicit vocab. And yeah, the vocabulary boosters. I ended up reading the book Bringing Words to Life by Isabella Beck. And one of my best friends is one of our very strong teachers in our district. And so we sit and we chit chat as nerds all the time, like just about the different, oh my gosh, I read this book. And so with her and I kind of collaborating, we worked on some of these vocabulary boosters, and it's just another way. Each day the teachers are teaching vocabulary explicitly in a different way, using examples and non-examples and multisensory, thumbs up, thumbs down. And it's just been really, really cool how it's all come together.
And our level of student engagement is through the roof. When you walk into a classroom and you see them up and they're up, they're moving, they're engaged in a lesson. You're not going to walk into a classroom and see heads on desks and hands on, chins on hands. Kids are engaged. And, right now our big initiative is transferring the teach, we're going to do less teacher talk and more student talk. So, hopefully by the time, Vicki comes for her next visit, our level of engagement is going to be even bigger than it is right now, especially when we talk about comprehension. So you'll see a lot of turn and talks and, very not, we don't random call students because it's all going to be based on student conversation, a quick share out, we move on. Our pace is perky, we're explicit, we're high repetitions, and the kids don't have time to get bored because teachers are moving and shaking. And we're so routine and quick that there's really not a lot of time for behaviors either. I haven't looked, but I think our overall classroom behaviors have gone down too. And that would be a great thing to look at next, is the correlation between when we started working on being more explicit in our instruction and then the level of student engagement, how fewer referrals that we have.
That's an interesting point, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, and Jeannie too, what do you do with some staff that are not so enthusiastic about joining the team?
Well, I can tell you, one of the things that Donna had brought up is, our staff buy-in. And I would say our first year, we had a good solid group that bought in, but we had some naysayers. Year two, so year one, my first year, so it would have been last year, it was time to get on the bus. If you weren't going to get on the bus, if you're going to drag a heel, then we're going to have a conversation. I was very fortunate to have an extremely supportive superintendent. So we followed the process and the procedure of plans of improvement and non-renewals if we needed to. So, the district initiative is to do this work. And if you're not going to do this work, or this work isn't for you, then we had some very honest and very, very difficult conversations with people. And it was either time to get off the ship or jump. So that's what we ended up doing. We've had some turnover, and now our initiative is to, recruit and retain the best and the highest quality people that we can. So we've had to make some tough decisions, and we had very emotional and difficult conversations with staff members. But, now I can't think of I don't think we have a foot dragger. I think we got everybody on our bus, and it's not been without kicking and screaming in some cases. People are very tied to their past practices, and we've got some pretty veteran people on our staff that have become some of the leaders in pushing forward. So, you've taken some people that weren't sure because, we're messing with, I've been doing this for 25, 30 years, and now you're gonna, okay. But they have grown, and now, like I said, front runners in this initiative and are completely bought in. So it's not been a happy journey along the way, but we had to make some tough decisions.
I think one of the things I want to mention too is that I think that it's very hard for us as teachers. I mean, we always want as a teacher to do what's best for kids and to help them learn. And that's why we went into the profession. And when we had to let go of the fact that we might not have been doing our very best because we just didn't know how to do things better. I think that was really hard for us. That first year, there was a lot of like, I didn't know that I didn't know that, and I didn't know that I could do better. So letting go of some of those, the guilt that came along with thinking that this has been out there all this time and we haven't done anything about it was hard. And allowing ourselves to embrace what we're learning and move forward with it instead of feeling upset about the fact that we didn't do a better job when we were younger teachers.
You know, and we've always said, you don't know what you don't know. So we move forward, you know, we have to, and, you know, we're evolving and we're constantly learning. I think one of the things that we probably failed to mention, so year one, we had a different principal in our building. And then I got licensed last year. So I was on emergency license last year. And so this is like my first official year in this position. But I had great relationships with the staff, you know, in my part-time special ed role when I was there. So it was kind of a natural, you know, it was a good fit for us at the time. And we have really just, we put our heads down and we just got rolling. We didn't have time. We don't have time. We don't have any more time to waste. We got kids on the line. Mm-hmm. You know, our job is to educate. We cannot not do our job, and we can't do it knowing that the science tells you. And I want to go back to the CISA question because I was a CISA 10 employee before I came to Thorpe, and I worked in multiple districts, and there was always this huge rift between special ed and Title I, because special ed typically would operate on these science principles and direct explicit instruction, and it was always our team against your team, and some of that still exists. I think people are coming around a little bit, but we don't have, you know, in our area, I wouldn't say that our CISA is 100% on board. Our title consultant is supportive in what we're doing, but, you know, we don't look to CISA for supports in this initiative. We're kind of on our own that way. That's why we use outside consultants.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to make a comment about what Amy, something that really struck out with me with Amy. This was last year, and we discovered that our 5th graders were really struggling readers. And Amy looked at me in the eye and she said, I taught them how to read. And she did what she did, and she taught them how to read, but it didn't stick because they weren't using the science at the time. And Amy, I have to tell you, you handled that with grace, and you accepted what had happened with those kiddos, and we moved on. So it was really, you impressed me. You really impressed me with how you handled that, because not too many people could handle knowing that doing what you did was probably not in the best interest of kids, but you didn't know that at the time. But now you do.
I'd like to take that for a moment and just elaborate on the interventions a little bit. I think one of the most difficult things that we encountered as we were turning over from being a more balanced literacy school to a structured literacy school was that we didn't have interventions to use with our kids. We had LLI, which is a very broad intervention. It covers everything from phonemic awareness and phonics and fluency and comprehension, and nothing is covered in enough depth that it can address deficit areas. So I always felt like once you had a title kid referred to you, they were yours for the rest of their elementary life.
It's true.
The rest of their career. So I did, you know, I taught them how to compensate for what they didn't know very well. They're very good compensators. They can read. They're my 6th graders this year, and yeah, they can all read, but some of them have to work so hard to get the words off the page that they lose the comprehension piece. And so I feel like this year I'm saying goodbye, after this year, goodbye to the last of the compensators. And anybody else coming up will have been explicitly taught the skills that are the foundations of reading success. So I'm sorry, but and even now I have to say, even now we are going back and backfilling some of our 6th graders with Kilpatrick's 1-minute PA. They were screened. We had holes. We're trying to fill them in, but I don't want to say it's too little, too late. It's not as effective as if you start with a good. It's just like, you get a hole in the foundation of your house. You can patch it, but it's not going to be as good as if you build a nice strong foundation from the beginning. And that's where we're at right now, is really focused on making sure that as the kids come up in the grade levels, they are solid in the skills necessary to be a reader.
And I'm going to chime in on that too, because one of the things that you had talked about is when the kids get to title, well, no longer do the kids go to title. It's not, we've done what we can in the classroom. Now you have to take them in their life sentenced, or they get a demotion to special education where the sentence remains a little bit longer. Our classroom teachers are interventionists. All of our tier 2 interventions happen in the classroom. So it's not send them to title. They can't read, they go to title. We're problem solving and intervening in the classroom every single day. And that was a big shift for our staff. Is, it used to be our kids, your kids, and now they're everybody's kids. So, it's been a great change. And I can't give our staff, I have the best staff, probably the hardest working staff around. They don't quit. They never get up. They're asking questions. They have embraced this, and they do the work. They are in the trenches, they listen, they respond. They love it when Schools Cubed comes in and they get to jump in and model something for them. They absolutely invite all any critique that they can take. They read their feedback and they make change. So our staff does not get enough credit because they are absolutely phenomenal.
Well, Misty, I will tell you that if I was working, I'd want to work for you because you're just that type of person. Okay, Susan had her hand up.
I just wanted to say, I'm listening to all of you, and one thing that I wanted to say was, if you recall, when I was there, you were all just starting. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but I said to you, always think of the year that you're learning everything, the year that you're doing all your PD, the year you're deciding what you're going to use. That is year 0. Mm-hmm. It's just like when a child is born, from 0 to 1, that's when they're scooping in everything that they can get and learning everything that they can get. And I think it's important for districts or leadership or teachers, when they're starting out with something new that you're still not quite sure of, to give yourself that year 0 to really make some good decisions. And that's what you all did in that first year 0. You with under John's leadership, with Jamie and Patty and all of us coming in, you all took all this information and made some good decisions. And then it was the next year, which was actually your year 1, that you started rolling with what you were doing. So I think it's important for those that are not doing this right now and are just starting this journey to understand that the first year is that year 0, where you're just starting to learn and to develop. And that's what's important to remember in your journey.
Thanks, Susan. All right, in closing, let's have one more question. And this comes from several people who are concerned about, how do you get the ball rolling if you're if you have very little influence in your district, or maybe if you're a parent, what would you suggest to people to do? Jeannie or Misty or Amy or anyone?
I guess, I don't think there's a good answer to this question. We were blessed. We were blessed from top down. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a singleton try to change the world. And I don't know that one person can do it. It depends on how receptive your board was. I think our board was, they listened, they understood that we weren't in a good place, but I still don't know that, with the exception of a couple board members. We presented at the state school board convention last year, and one of our board members, who happens to be a parent and has seen the growth in her children. One child is a 5th grader and missed part of this, and then she's got a a third grader and a kindergartner. And so she has kind of seen the progression of, the third grader surpassing the fifth grader, just because of the skills that he learned. So, we have her support, which is obviously beneficial. We're in a good place in Thorpe because they're super supportive. We had a change in district administrators, and Paul is very supportive of the work we're doing. The board's very supportive, but for one person to try to do this in their classroom, it would be very difficult to convince your entire school that I guess the first thing you do is you have to be very honest about what your data is showing. We admired our data for a long time, but you have to just open yourself up and be honest about what you're seeing and understand what that data means. And, without, honestly, John pushed us so hard. Like, there were times I think we were ready to, send him up the river, but he pushed us, he made us better. He made us understand. We didn't have a choice. And, like I said, it's hard work, but you have to have a team. We're blessed to have consultants, and people that we can reach out to, but our team is phenomenal. And it's not just, we have a data team, we have a school leadership team, and then we have teams within our teams because we work in pods. So like our yellow pod is a strong team, our red pod's a strong team, and our green pods. We have strong teams throughout our entire building, but to do this work on your own is going to be a very, very difficult task. You have to garner support and really have difficult conversations about how dismal your reality could be. I think, you look across the country, reading scores aren't great. So if you're going to be open and you're going to have that conversation and be honest about what the state of the state is and how you're going to make it better, I think for us, we have the data that shows that it makes a difference. Last year we had a first grade teacher that completely flipped her triangle. She started, with reds on the bottom and too much red and not enough green, and she ended the year with a tiny bit of red and a whole lot of green. So we know that great things can happen, and that was not even a full school year, and she was flipping triangles. So
she's on, Misty.
Huh?
She's on, I think.
Is she?
She should unmute and
She should
say hi.
take a bow.
Yes,
Miss Bridget Gerard, our triangle flipper.
Best.
I don't know that it's possible to, I think you can, you have to get support and you have to be able to show people that it's effective, but to do it on your own is a uphill battle. It really is.
Well, in our situation in Sturgeon Bay, just real briefly, it kind of was a team effort from the ground up. We had some parents who had loud voices in the community that said they wanted change, and they didn't give up.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give up. They kept voicing their concerns. And then slowly, again, I agree with you, it's the data, right? Wrapping your arms around your reality of your data. And then I'm back to your question, Donna, about the naysayers. I think in our district, our coaches and all our buildings are all buying into this. And so because everybody is buying in on the bottom, our administrators really let us from the bottom take our district where we're going. We didn't have an administrator saying this is what we're going to do. We all kind of collectively realized this is where we need to go. And then having Danielle come in is just going to help us get where we need to go.
Well, I think what the impetus was for when you had an outside person come in and look at your data and said, this isn't very good. And that was a reality check.
Eric Larson from CISA 6, actually, he came in, our district hired him to come in, and he did a 5-year trend on our forward scores, our star data, all of our data. And he just was very direct that we needed to make some changes. And it was a lot of people had to be pretty vulnerable that day, but if any Wisconsin people out there, Eric Jensen, CISA 6, he would do that for you, your district.
Okay, I want to respect everyone's time. It is 8:03. If you want to stay on, great. If not, you are free to go. I want to thank you for joining. But I wanted to address a question by Nancy Dressel. She says, are you doing anything differently to identify and support middle school and high school dyslexic learners?
I wish I could say yes, but like I said earlier, our initiative right now is K-6. As the student service director, I get a lot of questions about kids that struggle in the middle school, and I keep going back to our middle and high school principal and saying, if you want to create, you have to have a system in place. So I work the best that I can to help them understand that they have to also build a system to identify need. But, again, that goes back to that building leadership. We have teachers that want to make that change, but that's the direction of the middle and high school is not down that path yet. So Nicole and I will keep working on it. We'll try to get them to understand the importance. And I think, I'm not quite sure if, where the light bulb will shine for them. Will it be, in the next 3 years when all of a sudden they get these fantastic readers and they have time to reflect back on, oh my gosh, we should have done something different. So, it's hard, it's just hard for me to say, with being our initiative K-6. So
I'm going to pick on Patty real quick, the quiet one. She hates to speak in front of large groups, but I know she's got an answer for this question.
She does.
So Patty.
Should I read it for her? She says, implement the science of reading at the secondary level. It's very possible.
Yeah, she's taking us
Patty.
Okay, I'll talk as long as no one sees me. We have a lot of research on what we need to be doing for secondary students as well. It's not the science of reading that it looks like at the elementary, but there is a great deal of science in how we teach secondary students to read. And that's what we need to be doing at the secondary level. So.
There is a question about curriculum on here. It's come up a few times. We were encouraged year 0, year 1 to purchase new curriculum. And we didn't, we put it off. And then, we started having more serious conversations about it year 2. But then we looked at the scope and sequence from School Cubed, and we started to align our curriculum, which is Reading Street, to the scope and sequence, and our staff became comfortable. We talked about doing an adoption this year, but with the pandemic and everything going on, it would be one more thing to add to the list of things that my teachers are already doing. And they are honestly trying to kill themselves, just trying to educate kids at this time. So we are going to adopt. We're going to really spend, we've got some samples that we're going to look at from CKLA, in the next few months. And then we're really going to spend time understanding and working. We work with Schools Cube to do all of this, where we don't do this work on our own. So we're going to take their recommendations. We're going to have spend a good, year, hopefully digging into these, because people have a lot of questions. We have some people that hated Reading Street and now they love it. But Reading Street is kind of phasing out. So we know that we're going to have to get something different, but we really want to be cautious about how we phase it in, because right now there's just so much going on. And, right now, I guess reading is definitely a priority, but we also have a major social emotional issue that we're going to tackle. So we're going to bring in new social emotional for next year, and then we'll look at adoption for the 22-23 school year. But it has been recommended right out of the gate that our universal curriculum needs to be upgraded.
I just want to comment on the fact that if we were still using our universal curriculum of Reading Street the way we always had, we would not be seeing any effects with it. We really had to parse through it and find where the most essential components were to use, because there's just, like any other Basil, there's so much fluff and extra stuff in there that needed to be fixed. And we're struggling. I mean, our at the beginning of the year with the new lesson plan format we were given, we have to turn to day 3 to teach something for day 1. We have to go through the entire week's worth and find all the pieces that we need to do each day. So it's certainly not user friendly. And I hope that, now that the teachers can find the things that they need and be able to teach from it, it's great. But I can see we definitely need to move to something different.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. I think we did a great job explaining what happened here in Thorpe, and Jeannie, with you coming up in Sturgeon Bay, pretty exciting stuff. Wisconsin is on the cusp of change. we are crossing our fingers and our toes to hopefully that will be a growing trend here. There's no guarantee for sure, but we're looking forward to having that happen. And I'm hoping that with us, sharing your journey and others, that we can get other people interested, not only here, around the world.
We have the Reading League has a couple more events in Wisconsin, roundtables of other districts involved with science of reading as well coming up.
Yep. So for all of those of you, if you're in Wisconsin, please sign up for the Science of Reading, What I Should Have Learned in College Facebook page. We will post a lot of events there. Reading League, like Jeannie said, is going to have events. Who else?
And we are on April 24th.
Yeah, April 24th, we have a spring conference that's going to have some hands-on type of things. You'll be able to learn something and put it into your classroom on Monday morning. So I want to thank everyone again for being here. This has been just an honor to see my old friends and see how well they're doing. It's touching for sure.
Well, thank you for letting us share our journey. And I just want to give one last shout out to my amazing staff. They are the ones in the trenches, digging the ditches. They work so hard, and I am blessed that they work for us. So
if any of the school board members or administrators out there want to talk about some of the leadership issues, getting people on board, some of the funding pieces, you're welcome to connect with me. Donna's got my email. I'll throw it in the chat. Yep. But there are ways to get this done.
So just for everyone that you know this, that you can record the chat. All you have to do is in the lower right-hand corner, there are 3 dots. If you press that, it says save chat, and it'll save it to your downloads. So you can save anything that was written in here and have it for future reference. Okay, good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Donna.
All right, it was great seeing you guys. Take care.
Bye, John.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Jess.
Bye.
See you, folks.
Hi, Santina. It's good to see you. And Zora, I didn't see you, but I saw your name.
Thanks, Donna.
I don't want to get off.
I know, right?
It's so good to see you guys.
I want to see Mrs. Gerard.
Well, she actually popped off. I went and she was on earlier, and I wonder if she had to get off because I went to go look for her. I said that, and
I want to see that triangle. She's such a rock star.
She is. Yeah, she's
such
awesome.
Fun group. You guys are so lucky you have each other. You work so well together.
You have no idea.
Well, I'm so glad to hear it's continuing too. Really, that's so cool. And I have right at my desk my Thorpe Cardinal Wordle.
That's cool.
Your Wordle. Oh, it's a Wordle.
Yeah, it's a Wordle with all the stuff we used to talk about.
That's funny. All right, folks.
This was fun.
Yeah.
And if
All we
anybody
need now is to have a drink together, right?
I know we should have another one of these and actually just hang.
Donna, if anybody wants any more information, feel free to share my contact information. I'm happy to.
Do you mind if I put it on the SOR page, the Wisconsin
Not at all.
page?
No,
Okay.
that's absolutely fine if they want to
I'll do
reach
that.
out.
Perfect. Okay, folks, I think we're still recording, so I'm gonna
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
See you guys.
stop this
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
shindig. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.